Hey guys, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. How are you doing, Mr. Froggy T. White? Thank you so much for being here. Jackson just walked in the room, drinking his water, eating his food, make sure everything's all right. Now he's going to take off again. Let's remember to share the screen. Now this is going to be the lightning spread report. I'm supposed to do this report every night. I'm supposed to record this every night at 7 and then broadcast it. I think this is going to be a big, hang on a second. I'm hoping this is going to be a big new feature for my station. These lightning spread funds are special, and I'm kind of specializing in them. Anyway, I never can get it done by 7. And tonight I screwed around and waited so long. And I kept thinking, I need to record this. And finally I said, I'll just do it live. So let's just do the Altis, or not the Alti. I get confused. We're doing the lightning spread special live every night. So it's be a little bit different than my end of the day show. I just talk about all funds generally. On the lightning spread show, we're going to talk about QLDY and blocks, but then it'll also cross over into Alti and LFGY and other stuff later on in the conversation. But let's just, but we're going to focus first on, it's called the lightning spread report. So first let's look at QLDY, or the lightning spread. So let's see, how are we going to check this out? Well, first of all, let's just start with the trade. I mean, this is awesome. These guys sold 3 options. Remember, it just seems like just the other day they were selling one option or one spread. So get this, they sold an option for, call it 67. They bought one for 16. Okay, so they made the difference on that, multiplied by 100, multiplied by 3. So they made $15,000 just in one day yesterday. That's more than they've ever made. They made 13. That's more than they've ever made. Now, of course, their assets are going up because they brought more assets to the book. That's why they cannot now sell three, and they're selling 3 big contracts. To do 3 big contracts, it's 2.5 a contract. So you have to be worth at least 7.5 million to do that, and they darn sure are. Anyway, we'll get into the middle of their positions, but that was their trade. Now we're actually going to look at the trade on a trade basis also, because I punched it in the other day to I punched it into option strat, and here's what actually happened. We actually sold the 2,500 strike, and we bought the 24,820 strike, and we did that at the close of the day yesterday. Well, today the market was trading at, hang on a second. So I can never do this report right. I just can't get I can't ever get a good rhythm going in this report. There's just so much to cover, so many details on this. Oh, yeah, gosh darn it. We need to look at NDX. Okay, my apologies. Okay, so NASDAQ, the reason this is important is because this index, which they're selling options on, closed at 24,978 yesterday, and they wrote a 25,000 strike price put, so a slightly in the money put, which is the smart way to do it. It gives them, it's a smart way to do it. So that's what they did yesterday. Well, unfortunately, so that's they can do that, but then they have to settle the trade depending on what the market does. Well, by the end of the day today, the market closed at 24,840. Okay, well, let's go back here to option strat. Okay, so 24,840 means that our 2,500 put, and remember we sold this one twice, goes in the money. So it went actually right about to where the short strike is where it finished. Anyway, you can see that that created I'm trying to think how I showed this. Earlier I was showing that as that created about a $32,000 loss on the day for the fund. So, and that happens sometimes. They still got the income off the front end. They sold this option for 73 and they bought this option for 20. But then when it went through the short strike, this option they sold for 73, they had to buy it back for 151. Anyway, it caused a trading loss. That happens sometimes. So, and that's the one issue with the lightning spread is they don't have a buffer on the downside. They have a little inverse buffer. In other words, they lose a little bit more on the downside. And it's unlike a typical covered call fund. Typical covered call sells calls and has to settle losing trades from the option part of it in a bullish market. Well, so that's why a typical cover call strategy doesn't do as well in a bullish market. Well, this is the opposite situation in a lot of ways. Anyway, okay, well, so unfortunately that was a trading loss today, and we can even see the trading loss. The market makers will price it in the price of these things don't trade freely. The market makers decide, or they're called authorized participants. They decide where they trade. And they had to bring it down today. I mean, the price had to come down a little bit today. Well, that's blocks, gosh darn it. But they all did. I mean, blocks is a lightning spread also. Let's look at QLDY. And QLDY is still way up since inception. But you can see it came down today. But that's just a result of losing that, of having to settle the losing trade. They still got the income, still going to pay the payment. Speaking of the payment, let's go back here. The payment got paid today or declared today. I mean, heck, I don't know. So it's 19.68 cents. That left 22 cents in reserve, but today's trade made 12 cents. They have 125,000 shares and make 12 cents a share. So now in reserve, they have, that should say 22 plus 12 equals. So they have 35 cents in reserve. They'll go another couple of days. Then what? On Thursday, they declare again, right? Or Wednesday, they declare. I mean, so, when they declare twice a week, it happens all the time. But it looks to me like the game is to pay about 40 cents a week and to try to keep 45 cents in reserve. It's about how it's been going. The biggest reserve they had was 44. I mean, it's, so we'll keep an eye on that. But anyway, it looks like they could easily, based on the premium they're earning, they could easily pay their payment. So today's trade was a loss, but was a little loss, but oh well, but not really though. And this is an important thing to understand about the lightning spread. It was a loss because these options expire today. These are one-day options, but you're long. You also have a portion of this spread, a portion of the strategy that's just long stock that essentially doesn't expire. Even if it does expire, they'll just roll it to a new one. So you had a trading loss this one day, but you really don't know how well the fund did until you get a month, 2-3 months down the road. And if you get a month, 2-3 months down the road, and you've had in the market's up, this kind of fund's going to do great because you're going to have a bunch of winning put spread trades that you're going to sell for a premium and not have to settle for anything. So just keep all the money. If the market's going up, keep all the money from the puts and you're fully invested in the stock market. So, this is definitely, QLDY is definitely a bullish fund, as is blocks. Okay, so let's finish up on QLDY really quick. Then we're going to go to blocks. I'm excited about talking about blocks. Blocks is interesting. They both use the lightning spread, but blocks is a totally different idea than QLDY. I'll talk about it. It's but they both do just use a similar strategy. But blocks, there's a lot more to blocks than just the lightning spread. But anyway, finishing up with QLDY, we can look at their position report. I've been following this every day. This, when they started off, they were worth 2.3 million, and they had one contract was their long. So that, but then their long was 2 contracts. See this right there? That's 1,000 strike option. That thing costs $4.7 million to put on. It's $2.3 million an option, and they have 2 of them because the strike's 1,000. Think about that, and the price of NDX is 24,000. So it's literally worth 2.3 million times. I mean, yeah, you guys get the idea. It's a big contract. Well, anyway, as their fund grew and brought in more money, at first they only had 3.7. Then they went to 6.3. They brought in more money, so they added another long contract. So now they're long 2 big contracts and 55 small contracts, which are worth a hundredth of a big contract. Anyway, and that was the case for a few days. We've been going on the 255 contracts for our long book. We have a long book and a short book, an ODTE book, and then a long book. And together, the two of them together make the lightning strategy, or the two of them together make the lightning spread. There's really no such thing as a lightning spread. It's more of a lightning strategy. Anyway, but then just yesterday they added another long. So now we have 3 deep in the money options. It's just like stock. Just think of this as stock. That's why it costs so much. It's the same thing as if you went out and bought stock. You can't buy stock in NDX, just like you can't buy stock in SPX. It's an index. They don't have stock. It's just an index, but you could create stock with synthetics and just by buying a deep in the money option. I mean, a deep in the money option is essentially stock. I mean, and these are flex options, so they can have the counterparty make them however they want. But I've seen some flex options. I think the ones Roundhill uses have a strike, or somebody have a strike price of like a penny or $1. I forget which one it is, but that it's a flex option. So it's a strike. So essentially, it's just they've turned it into a stock. It's no longer if you can, it's essentially a stock at that point. So anyway, but anyway, so the book's growing. This thing's looking good. So that covers QLDY. Okay, now let's talk about the difference between QLDY and blocks. Well, first of all, let's go look at blocks. Let's pull up blocks' performance here. Now, like I say, blocks for one thing doesn't use lightning spreads on the whole fund. They use lightning spreads on about 2/3 of the fund. And they use a lot of judgment. They're part of their strategy isn't only the lightning spreads. They have other things going on too. They have other components of the strategy using call spreads and other things going on. They actively switch stocks in and out. So they get a lot of their return comes from stuff other than the lightning spread. Now, but QLDY has just mechanized just the lightning spread part of it. That's part of it. Just by itself is pretty cool. You don't even have to use any judgment, is what QLDY figures. We'll just do it on the whole index. And on the NASDAQ, that's not a bad plan because the NASDAQ is such a volatile instrument. You can make a pretty good yield. I think QLDY is going to be a great, great instrument. But I was just trying to explain. It's one of them is automatic pilot. It's going to let math work it out for you. That's QLDY. Virtually no management. It's very mechanized, very mathematical. But blocks is not that way. Blocks, and I've had the founder on my show. He's been on a lot of people's shows. Blocks is not that way. Very actively managed, very aggressively managed, and you can see very well managed so far. As it started at 20, including dividends, it actually started at 1762 because this chart's been adjusted for dividends. It really started at 20 because I remember the first day, but the reason it says 17, whatever it is because that's how much dividends is paid. And it's just, they just adjust the chart by the dividend. But anyway, we could also do it not adjusted by the dividend. Let's not adjust it. So if we don't adjust by the dividend, it'll actually start at $20, but it won't reflect the money we've made off the dividend. It started in 1939. Anyway, the difference between this and wherever it started on the dividend chart, it's just the cumulative dividend that is paid so far. Anyway, so, but even without dividend, with dividends, without dividends, without dividends, it's gone from 19 to 27 in 2 or 3 months. I mean, it's pretty good, right? I mean, what is that? 7 points? I mean, it's like 35% or something. It's insane. This thing's a monster. It's insane. But the lightning spread is a big part of its success because on the 2/3 of the book that they do it on, that 2/3 of the book is uncapped. But it'd be disingenuous to blame it to give the lightning spread all the credit because it's also which stocks they're choosing. They're actually actively choosing stocks where QLDY is just doing it on the whole index. And I'm not sure there's a right way or a wrong way to do it. QLDY would be a lot simpler and stuff and may have some advantages to just doing it the mechanized way. We'll give it a year and we'll see which one does better, QLDY and blocks. And we'll give it a couple of years and stuff, but it should be interesting. See, I'm not saying it's the right way to do it to actively manage it, or the right way to do it to passively manage it. But anyway, all right. So yeah, blocks is a monster. Now let's go look at blocks as part of my crypto quartet report. And lately my consolidated asset changes have been working better. This never used to work, but so these are just all the funds in my crypto quartet. But anyway, we'll look at blocks first. So blocks today, well, it does show that Alti dropped something. So blocks just changed. Blocks didn't do anything, didn't change anything. Alti dropped U. They dropped First Solar. We'll talk about Alti when we get done with blocks. And Alti added Lucid. But that's interesting. Anyway, back to blocks. So blocks didn't do any changes, just any major changes. Allocation changes blocks. Well, we can see them. I mean, here's some of their things. I mean, they did add to IREN. They added IREN. They added almost 1% to IREN. A lot of these, it's really not a big change. It's just like probably the price of the stock changed a little bit that day, changed the allocation, but it looks like IREN, or maybe IREN was up that much. I mean, you never, with IREN, it could have been up that much. It probably was, knowing IREN. Anyway, it's a really good fund, though. All right, so let's talk Salty. Let's talk blocks. Let's go over here to blocks. Okay. Okay, the 2/3 of the book that they do the lightning spreads on is anything but the first three. So they don't do it on the first three. They do it on from Galaxy on down. So they have uncapped upside on all these stocks, virtually uncapped. I mean, I'm not sure that's totally accurate for me to say because of the way synthetics work, but I'll get into that some other time. But it's less capped than any other freaking income strategy I've ever seen. But it's uncapped. It's uncapped. Anyway, they just had a problem with Mister today, and Bitmine Immersion's going the wrong way, and it brought their fund down. Not to mention they're also invested just directly in Ether and Bitcoin, and those are all down today. So anyway, Bitcoin pulled back today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. All right, so that's blocks. On Alti, all I wanted to talk about really quick, since I have you guys here, and you guys are probably interested in Alti too, if you're interested in blocks and QLDY. Alti changed their synthetic book. I was going to keep track of the synthetic book since I don't think the other influencers that track Alti are. I'm not doing a very good job at it. But anyway, so they dropped Tesla. Tesla's no longer in the synthetic book. It's no longer in their book at all. So they're done. They're done with Tesla. I guess I should erase this, but they still have synthetic positions in Palo Alto Network, Lululemons, and Galaxy. All of that matters is now that they're done with Tesla, they aren't tying up 125 million. They freed up 125 million. They freed up another position they can put on. And I think they did. They put on Lucid, right? Because we were just looking, or was that blocks? Consolidated asset changes. Was that no, Alti put on Lucid. So they dropped Tesla, added Lucid, and dropped First Solar and dropped Unity. So anyway, now let's make sure though, because I want to make sure in Lucid, let's see if they actually bought stock or bought options. I mean, let's see how they're doing it. Stock positions, option positions, blocks. It was in the blocks. It's Alti. What am I doing? Option positions Alti. My bad. Okay. And it's Lucid. There is Lucid right there. And no, they bought stock with Lucid. And the reason I can tell, well, I don't guess I can't tell for sure, but they have a call and a put, and the call's short and the put's long. So I bet you anything they have shares somewhere because that completes a caller. But these are just the option. But you can see as compared to like Lulu, where they just have two puts. They could also have stock somewhere, but I've already verified it. They don't. They don't have a synthetic. So the Lululemon is just synthetic. It's a synthetic caller. Two puts is a synthetic caller. A short put spread is a synthetic caller. But also, you know what else is a caller? Stock plus a short call and a long put, which is what they have in Lucid. But all right, so that's a little alty. Let's see what else. I think we forgot to check this out on the nighttime report, and then I'll take questions from you guys, and I'm done talking. Did we? I don't think we checked out the index buffer report, and the only thing that looks, I was glad to see Salty's up. That's great. Feed and 5E. What do I always say? What do I always say about Feed and 5E? Always up the most or down the most of the SPY ones in SPY land. Now, not in NASDAQ land. NASDAQ land, it's usually Alty, LFGY, blocks, up the most or down the most. And look at this, Q up. I'm really fascinated with this fund. This is a fund that doesn't pay a yield. They use options to get extra upside. They use options for the leverage aspect rather than for the income aspect. Well, let's see. They were down big today, but I'm just fascinated with this fund. I wouldn't think it does as well as it would do. It has a real simple money management strategy. It puts 10% of its money every day in an at the money call option, an ODTE at the money call option. So on days the market goes up, it makes money. Days the market goes down, and not only days the market goes up, the market has to go up, and it has to go up further than the cost of the call. They're gonna price that call at $1.50 or something. So it has to go up, and it has to go up more than $1.50. But on days that it does, on days we have a 3% up move or something, which happens more often than you would think, these guys have it at the money call. It could make, could make a triple or something. And anyway, you can see they came out. Now, they were introduced right at the right time because they came out in, not the greatest time to come out, because it would have been better if they came out about a month later. But March wasn't a bad time to bring a bullish fund out because you just had to make it through April. Then you rallied up. But yeah, this is an impressive fund. Doesn't pay a yield, but it's gone from 20 to 44 in 2 months. Now, if this fund could pay a yield, but it would have gone from like 20 to 30, and maybe they should do a fund like this. I guess they are doing funds like this. It would be called leverage plus income, and they're coming out with one. Defiance it's going to be called QQY. And it's basically like, it's going to be similar to this. It's going to be a leverage long, plus they're going to sell options somehow. So, but anyway, that's impressive to go from 22 to 44 in that short amount of time. Definitely a bullish fund, but I'm going to say that I like this idea better than TQQQ, which does triple leveraged options, but TQQQ is fine too. Let's look at which one's done better. I just think this is a cooler plan, and I tell you what I like about it is if you lose multiple times in a row, like 5 days in a row, because you're betting 10% of the total assets every time, as you lose, your bets get smaller. So if you go on a losing streak, your bets get smaller. If you lose 7 times in a row, you're down like 40% or something. Because it's not, you aren't down 70%, even though you're betting 10% every time, because it's 10% of the new balance. You guys get it. Anyway, or is it 10 losses in a row is a 70? Think if the fund loses 10 losses in a row, it's down 70%, which sounds crazy to me also, but you could see, but in a bull market, it can also go from 22 to 44 in 2 months. I mean, anyway, let's see which one we like better, the triple Qs or the Q up. The triple Qs use swaps, and they just triple leverage the daily results. So they have a fixed percentage. Q up will just buy whatever 10% of their assets under management will get them that day. It's a great plan. It's a great, I mean, it's an interesting plan. And I mean, the best thing about Q up is like I was saying, it's a little bit safer into pullbacks, in my opinion, because it's not a fixed percentage. It's betting a little bit less and less every time. So if you get in a losing streak, it has a little bit of a dampening effect because you're running out of money and you have less and less to risk. But then the opposite can happen if you get on a winning streak and you win a couple of big trades in a row, your assets will grow and your 10% can also compound that way. Anyway, that's a good one. Okay. I did have one other thing I want to talk about. Then I'll take questions from you guys. It's about this is all anyone's talking about is this BITK. I saw it the other day. I thought I was going to do a video on it, and I thought I did one, or I was going to. All right. Maybe I talked about it. Okay. So these guys, first of all, this is false advertising. They're saying they're doing ODTEs in IBIT. Well, IBIT only has weeklies. So it's false advertising, but somehow they're doing them synthetically, maybe with flex options or something, because they're pulling off like a freaking monster yield. Let's get over here and see if we can figure out what the heck they're doing. The best place to look for this kind of information is stocktools.app. I would use /Max if you want to. That's my affiliate link if you haven't already, but you don't have to. Go to stocktools.app, then go from there to options. And then let's just go to the options chain. Let's see how good a business this looks like. So they're selling options in IBIT. IBIT, I always say, is the SPY of the next decade, or it is like this because it's the big index fund of the big, that's what I say anyway. I don't know if it'll be true or not, but I mean, heck, it has like 80 billion or something. It's just a monster fund. Great option, super liquid. This tool just has everything, even more stuff than Tasty Trade as far as the volatility smile, the expected move. I mean, there's nothing you couldn't look at on here, but I just wanted to check out the strikes and stuff. So let's see. And the IV is mainly what I wanted to check out. So these are the calls. These are the puts. So we'll look at the money calls. Well, yeah. So look at this APY. Holy cow. This is no wonder they're paying like 300%. Well, for one thing, but they don't have, okay, let's look at expirations. October 10th, 17th. Okay, yeah, they only have weeklies. I was right about that. I thought maybe they did have some other expirations, but no, it only looks like weeklies. But the IV is pretty high. This API means if you sold this option every day, you should make 195% yield, not total return. Yield. That's the yield that thing would kick off. Your total return would be bad. Selling a call every day in crypto, well, it depends. In a bear market, it'd be all right, but selling a call every day in crypto, yeah, good luck with that. Anyway, you get 195% yield though. But so anyway, all right, guys. You guys want to ask me something? You can ask me whatever you want about these funds. Hey, it was my dog and my friend's dog is staying with us. That's my dog. That's Jackson. Well, it's two dogs. Two dogs there, and there's actually three dogs, but there's only two of them barking right now. But yeah, those are my guys. Why has the lightning spread only been 20%? What do you mean? Elaborate on that a little bit. You're probably commenting on something that I was talking about 20 minutes ago, and I ramble so much, but help me remember. Only been paying 20 because I didn't think that's true. Well, and I didn't really show you that, but right here we can look at the daily. Column L has the daily percentage. The same thing that was APY on that option thing. It just shows you the yield that this day kicked off. So if every day was like that day, it would yield 45% over a year. So we've had one day that was 45, 131, 49. One day they didn't sell any options. But then they had 38, 36, 45, 31, 36, 31, 40, and 52. This is the percentages they've earned on their option selling in the lightning spread. The average for all of those days comes out to 35.2. So I think it should be higher than 20. Now, when I said 19, it wasn't 19%. The dividend is 19 cents. But 19-cent dividend twice a week comes out to about 40%. I figured it out before, and it comes out to about 40%, right? Because this is making easy math. Call it 40 cents, and we'll just multiply it by 50 weeks to kind of make up for it. But 40 cents times 50 weeks, what's that, $20? So, and this thing costs $50. So what's 20 on 50? 40%, right? Now, granted, these are only paying 19 cents and not 20 cents, but also I figured 50 weeks instead of 52. I'm pretty good at estimating. So that's pretty close. I mean, it's going to be in the ballpark, not to mention, and it's backed up by the fact that the daily results are, I would say, averaging close to 40. And if I had done the math exactly right, using 19 instead of 20, I guess we could just remove 5% from it. But if I had done the math exactly right, it would have come out better also. So anyway, all right. So I think the lightning spread is going to earn about twice 40. Now, Blocks is doing lightning spreads also, but doing different deals. What are they paying? Blocks is paying about 30, I think, so far. I mean, I know it goes up and down, but anyway, let's see what if there's any follow up from Brandon, because I asked him a question. I want to make sure. But like I say, if anyone else knows what he's talking about, I think the lightning spread's been paying about 40. I'll be disappointed if it doesn't pay 30, 35. I mean, it's, yeah, Blocks didn't do half bad considering. No, I mean, it's just, no, it did fine. I mean, it's performing exactly like it's supposed to. James, thank you for being here. Hey, you live still? Yes, I am live still. I'm definitely live still. Yo, is that your dog? It's my dog. When are we going to get, when are we going to get those dividends? Yeah. All right. Hey, Andre, it's good to see you though. Good to see you. Yeah, tomorrow should be interesting. Yield max payments. Which ones are you guys waiting for? You know me, I don't even know. It doesn't even matter. I mean, that matters, but I don't even look sometimes. But I know that the people that are trying to live off these and pay their bills or pay margin off these, it's vitally important to the penny what they pay. So I'm not making light of it. But yeah, I don't know. I figured there's a big Misty payment or something. I know people are freaked out because Misty's going to pay less than $1. Anyway, have I looked at WPay at all? Not only I looked at it, I have it. I bought it like before the end of the month. I bought it before AMDY went crazy, and I've been very happy with it. It's about 10% of my overall portfolio. What I call my model portfolio, which is a real money income portfolio only that I manage for my family. It's up about 11%. We started it December 10th last year, which is pretty much a high in the market. The market rallied right after the election, right into early December, then kind of faltered. It did make a fractional new high into January, but then petered out. I was down about 20% for a while. But anyway, my biggest positions are Alti, LFGY, GPTY, GDXY. And the other day I sold some GDXY. Or no, I didn't sold you. I sold all my LFGY, and I bought Blocks and I bought WPay. And then I sold half of my GPTY, which has been a great one, and bought QLDY, some lightning. I mixed in some lightning spread. And then I haven't yet. I'm going to divest some of my GDXY, which has just done great. I'm going to sell about half of that and get some of the Curve precious metal funds, probably KSLV and K Gold. But yeah, that's my real money, what I call the model portfolio. But anyway, so, but yeah, Blocks is, I'm a little bit nervous because, I mean, if the market goes into bear market and I have 10% blocks and 10% QLDY, lightning spreads, I'm telling you, they'll do worse in the down market. So, but I'm factoring that in. Just it's something to be aware of, you know, because that's the one kind of saving grace about regular covered call strategies is, oh my God, you know, it sucks that they don't get any upside, but they do so much better in a down market. That's the one thing I can count on. They'll outperform in a down or a sideways market. Well, blocks is a new paradigm. The lightning spread's a new paradigm. It's going to be different. It's going to underperform in a down or even probably sideways market, but it's going to just massively outperform in an up market. So that we've never really had an option before to get an income investment that outperforms in a bull market. Recently, YieldMax improved the covered call product with the covered call spread, and they made a product that performs almost as well in bull market, you know, that performs much better than old-fashioned covered calls. Then Roundhill uses the 20% little bit of leverage trick and the swap trick, and they've done a good job. And then we've seen other companies, Granite Shares, you know, using small, but what I would say judicious amounts of leverage. And I think this is really kind of the new frontier, and I'm excited. I'm excited about all these. The ones that I'm excited about, well, are for sure WPay and stuff, but it's just not very exciting from an option standpoint because they do swaps and stuff. But just from a fun standpoint, I think the four best ideas out there right now are Rex, Granite Shares, the W series, and also YieldMax. And by YieldMax, I'm talking mainly Alti, LFGY, GPTY, mainly their hedge fund type stuff. But anyway, those are my favorites. All right, so how do I think these will do in a down market? Okay, we come in talk about that. I think on the lightning spread ones, be cautious because they're selling put spreads. You have to settle. You're going to, in a down market, you're going to be settling that losing trade a bunch. Not to mention, it's going to be a double problem because your synthetic's going to be losing money at the same time. So I would say if you knew a down market was coming, you would probably get out of your lightning spread stuff. But in a down market, we've had some down markets with the YieldMax stuff, and they do fine. They outperform, and the normal covered call stuff outperforms by a little bit in the down market. Meaning in April, Mister was down 30% or whatever. Misty was just down 20 or something. Let's go look at a few of them. But you can count on normal covered calls to give you a buffer in the down market. With the lightning spread, that's not going to be the same paradigm. So I would just say be cautious. Be cautious with it. But I still love it. I think that it's going to more than make up for it because markets usually go up. Because markets go up more than they go down, and they're uncapped on the upside. So the 2/3 of the time the market goes up, the lightning spread is going to be getting a bonus. They're going to have an upside buffer. But then the 1/3 of the time the market goes down, they're going to have a downside penalty. But hopefully they're going to be up so much from the 2/3 of the time when they were getting bonus time. But we really don't know. I mean, these strategies are brand new. But there actually is a fund that's done the lightning spread since 2020, and it's done very well. So but they're new to the high income world. So let me try to show you some of that. Or let's see here. And especially, I'll say this way: if you're on margin, and if you're on margin and you're living off these and you're really relying on the money and not just stripping them and reallocating and stuff, that would even make more sense to maybe. And I love blocks is probably the best fund out there, but it's also, we just have to admit it's going to be on the riskier side too. David didn't really say it was risky, but he did say that in a down market, that's the one problem with that strategy is in a down market, they're going to have a little bit of an extra loss, basically something like that. So just be cautious. Just be cautious. But yeah, a normal fund, like let's look at AMD versus AMD. I'm just picking stuff out of the air. And let's look January 1st of this year through the April low. All right. So AMD was down, not dividends reinvested, just this. AMD was down 25, AMD was down 30. What is that? 5/6? What is 5/6? 85%, 84%, or something like that. So it got 15% less downside. Then not a whole lot, but you can count on the covered calls to at least do better in a down and a sideways market. I don't have an example of the lightning to really show you that it may not be the same paradigm, but just be aware of it. But let's look at another one. Let's look at old Tesla and then Tesla. All right, so Tesla about the same. Protected cat is about 20 or it's 38 to 30 on this one. So what is that? That's like 6/7 or something. I don't know. Let's look at the ones that really protect capital the best are the ones that pay the defiance ones. Like look at Triple QI. Let's look at how it protected capital on the pullback. Yeah, look at this. It was only down 12.2, where the Qs were down 16. That's a big difference. It's just 4%. Well, yeah, not really. It's actually, it's a big difference on a percentage basis. That's I've always said that's going to be the absolute safest one on the downside, but it's for the same reason, because it gets the least amount of upside. It's the safest one on the downside. And that doesn't really make sense. It's not because it gets the least amount, but it has a quality where it doesn't get a lot of upside, but that same quality, it really helps it on the downside. Let's just say that. And WDT is another good one that gets a ton of protection. So maybe they'll probably come out with funds in the future that maybe do lightning spreads and bull markets, and then you could do regular covered calls and bear markets, or you could, who knows? There's so many interesting things coming out. Maybe there'll probably be a fund that comes out in the future that does lightning spreads on some of the stocks. Maybe they're bullish on some stocks. They do lightning spreads on this, and then maybe they aren't as bullish on some other stocks, and they do regular cover calls on them, and they have a book of income strategies. So anyway, we're getting into some really interesting stuff. But yeah, WDT ultra safe. Look, it was just down 9% in that April pullback when the market was down 13.5. So, all right. Misty was up 7 points. Let me look at Misty. I saw that comment, but I didn't really tune into it. I guess we could just look at Misty here. Yeah, Misty down 7.1%. Holy cow. I think I have like 4% of it in my account. I meant to sell all of it, but I didn't have my glasses on, and I thought I thought an 8 was a 0 or something. I ended up with a few shares. Anyway, now I'm just too stubborn to sell it. Just a few shares, but heck, I'm in at 20. It's trading at 14. I've been on drip the whole time though. So, but I also panicked and sold a bunch of the position, probably at the wrong, anyway, whatever. But Alti is probably one of my better positions. You can't tell by looking at the price in and price out. It's at 787, and it was my entry price, initial trade price. Now it's trading at 550, but yet I'm up on total return on it because of the drip. Anyway, GPTY has been a good one. Now GPTY is up even without the drip. It was at 42, or I bought it. It's at 43 now. I'm surprised YSPY isn't up. I got it at 21. It's at 20 now. It's close. I got YQQQ at 16. It's only at 1264. I'm surprised it hasn't dropped more. It's an inverse one. That's actually not too bad. The reason it hasn't dropped more is because their strategies, their income creates a buffer on, that way too. They create a buffer from the put spread, or they sell covered puts. It's the opposite of a covered call. So they create a downside buffer where it doesn't go down as fast. It's just the opposite of the other ones. AMDY, but there's that triple QI. I have a few shares of that. But yeah, that one I got at 29. It's at 25. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes. My rule of thumb on these, just to let, I figure that blocks is going to, or not blocks, Alti. So it was at 6, and everyone thought if it could just hold 6, I'm fine. And I'm going to keep it as long as it can hold 6. If it can just hold 6 and it can keep paying, what was it paying for a while? 10 cents, 9 cents. Everyone's like, I'm happy with that. Of course, that's the answer. It's not going to just hold. It's not going to just hold 6. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Because that'd be like free money. If it could just hold 6 and pay 10, if it could do that, all you have to do is put $10,000 in it and compound that. And here in 20 years, you'll have $4 billion or something, because it can't do that. So what you figure with, what I figure with Alti, or just figure this with any of them, with the really high yield ones, figure that you're going to lose half the NAV. Okay, so it's at 6. So I figure it'll be at 3 next year. Okay, but it's paying like 150%. I mean, the yield's going to more than make up for it. If it can lose half its NAV and pay 100% yield, you're still ahead 50%. That's the way the game is. But a lot of people, I just hear people just trying to make deals with themselves. Well, I'm going to do this, but it just needs to hold 6, and it would be wonderful. I get why they want it to hold 6, but it's just that the math is just, and not that it can never go up. They can have great months where they can do a great job picking stock, and it might go from 6 to 7. But by this time next year, it'll go from 6 to 7, then it'll be 7 to 3.5. I just figure that's easy to figure out. On the ones that pay 100%, figure you're going to lose half the NAV, and that's pretty close when you look at most of these. Let's go, and these are still great investments. Let's go look at Tesla, and let's look at since inception. This one's been around a long time. I did Tesla. All right, the Tesla. I'm trying to think. Would you say it's been a bad investment? I mean, it's up 46%. Well, so it's an average of 18%. Okay, so it's CAGR is 18%. So Tesla is not 18%. That's not been a bad investment. You can't say something that's making, it's making 18%. So it's been a good investment. Okay, well, but look what else it's been. And this is the thing about two things can be true at the same time. The price was at $26.79. Now the price is at $7. It's been cut in half about each year, give or take. That's just a good rule of thumb. Just figure that. On the ones that pay triple digits, figure on losing half the NAV. If you don't, for some reason, you can be happy about it. And I know I'm going to get pushback on that. People are going to say, but hey, have you seen HOOW, or something? Well, HOOW is, any single stock can do anything because single stocks are crazy. But, but that's not, you can't, it doesn't mean you can go buy HOOW and expect it to do that same thing next month. I mean, that's, and that's why I like the index ones. The index ones are more, they're more scalable and repeatable and that have more liquid options. But the single stock ones are great, but they're like lotto tickets. A few months ago, that this one could have been a terrible one. A few months ago, Hood was doing bad, but Pulte was the one you wanted. If you were just in Pulte, you would have, but the single stock ones are just like, if you happen to get one, that's awesome. Anyway, Surfer One, what are your thoughts about slowly buying Salty at the highs? I've been thinking about doing it myself, and here's where I go back and forth on it. Whenever I get into Portfolio Visualizer and backtest using, I backtest using Alti and YQQQ. But anyway, and it actually tests out pretty well, but it doesn't test out as well as using Alti and bonds, Alti and T-bills or something. Now, Alti, so I don't know. I go back and forth about that, but I'm thinking about doing that too. In fact, I'm thinking about dipping my toe in. I have about 12% of inverses right now. I'm thinking about just adding a 3% allocation to salty just to get started with. Market starts going down, I'll add more, but maybe boosting my inverse proportion from, it's at 12 right now, boosting it to 13, adding a little bit of salty just to buy the dip, just to kind of keep an eye on it, just to start it compounding. And I do think we're pretty high, and but maybe we pull back. So yeah, I've been thinking about dipping my toes in salty a little bit, but a long time ago, I was thinking I would just go like 60-40 in a bullish one and a bearish one. But and even though that works in your mind, when I test that using like 70% Alt-E and 30% YQQQ, it's all right, but it just is. It's not as efficient as just using 70%, just buying 70% of what you otherwise would have and keeping the rest in T-bills. So anyway, yeah, and I'm not, if Huey's been good to you guys, that's awesome. I'm all for it, but it's just the single stock ones just unreplicatable to you because they're all doing the same thing. So to me, HOOY is no different than PLTY. They're doing the same thing. It's the same thing. It just you have to know which stock's going to go up, right? I mean, but so that's my theory on the single ones. And so I just say stay in WPay, stay in YMAX, and you don't have to worry about having to pick the right ones. Or maybe you have a lot of money. Maybe you have a lot more money than I do, and you can or a lot more patience, and you want to follow 50 positions or something. That's fine too if you just like to do it. But I just say buy WPay, buy YMAX. Rex needs to come out with the fund of funds. I think they're coming out with one, but those Rex growth and income ones are real interesting, and the Granite Shares ones are interesting. They don't get much love, but and I didn't like Granite Shares that much at first, but I've really come around to the Granite Shares. I think it's doing a good job. Yeah, don't you wish you had more shares, Mike? I mean, my gosh, I mean, I wonder if you had 1,000 shares or 10. And there's lots of people that do anyway, but good for them. My point was about having a lot of money. Also, you have to have a lot more stocks to find the good single stock. So you can, for me to do it, I would have to have more positions or whatever. But so if somebody that doesn't have any patience, you can just go with one thing. You buy YMAX or you buy WPay, and you pretty much have the whole round hill strategy or the whole YieldMax strategy. Like I say, pretty soon, I'm sure Granite Shares, Rex will be catching up, and Curve. And you can do Curve right now. Curve basically has a fund of funds. They don't really advertise it as such, but that KQQ's like it's almost kind of like their version of Alt-E. But now Curve is coming out with their own Alt-E also. So it's just a great time to be an investor. Okay, so longer the government shutdown goes, yeah, that's true. There's no way we don't have a shutdown. I'm talking like next week. I can't believe it hasn't already started. There's no way. I mean, sometimes the end of the month turns the trend around. It didn't turn it around. Sometimes option expiration does. It hasn't yet. I mean, I'm with you guys. It ought to correct, and the market's way too high. The macro situation is screwed. I mean, the political situation, the economic situation, the social situation. I mean, this is the worst time that I remember since the 70s. So, I mean, in the 70s was a bad time for the market. I cannot understand why the market's this high. But at the end of the day, you have to trade the markets in front of you. The trend's your friend. And so, but yeah. Okay. The Curve fund of funds. It hasn't come out yet. They do have one that's called KQQQ that I'm calling it's like a fund of funds, and it does a great job. But it has a little different hook, but it's basically it's Curve's hedge fund. That's their premier product because they move stocks in and out of that. Was it KQQQ? Was that it? Was that it? Anyway, I'm drawing a blank of that. It is K. Okay, so we look at that, and you want to talk about tracking the NASDAQ well, and look right here. It was beating the NASDAQ for good parts of the year. The NASDAQ caught back up. And now because we took off on the downside, and now KQQQ is actually down a little bit more. But This is like the closest thing they have, Curve has to an Alti or a hedge fund right now, but they're coming out with an actual product where this one's called their Tech King. So they use tech stocks, but they're coming out with one where they just choose high IV stocks. So that'll be more like Alti, but this one, they just put the best tech stocks in the portfolio. I guess this one's probably more like a FEPI or more like a GPTY because it's basically a big tech covered call fund. But anyway, this thing does a good job. Now let's look at, let's do this. Let's go to current day and see where we're at. All right, so current day, look at that. KQQQ since inception is beating the Qs. Dividends not reinvested. I mean, that's, or, just taking the dividends in cash. It was only $2.78. NAV went from 25 to 30. You made almost $3 in dividends. So you spent 25, you have something that's worth 30, and you have $2.78 in your bank account. Not a bad little investment. But you could have also bought something that cost $480, had nothing in your bank account, or very little in your bank account. But and now it's worth 607. It's your choice. Depends if you needed the income or not. But regardless if you needed the income or not, KQQQ outperformed, which is awesome to see. That's very rare. That is very rare. Lately, the other one that's been killing people that you wouldn't really expect is YSPI. YSPI from Granite Shares has just been doing a great job too. Now look, they're tracking the SPY almost perfectly, and they're just a smidge behind it. And of course, dividends reinvested, they're beating, but we don't do dividends reinvested. I mean, I do them personally, but I never look at that chart. That's YSPI is darn impressive because people always, people just get stuck. There's like a fund of the moment, for when I first got in the business, it was FEPI. FEPI was the fund that fund doesn't erode. That's the good one. Doesn't erode. People thought the same thing about SFOL, and then people thought the same thing about Tesla, or people were all in on Tesla. It just goes to whichever fund's hottest at that time. And then it went from Tesla to Misty, from Misty to Coney to Alti. I mean, and it's going from Alti to Blocks. Alti will be the flavor of the month. Blocks has already passed 100 million. Blocks will be at 1 billion soon. Blocks is a monster. I predicted Blocks would be at 1 billion months ago. I didn't give it time, but Blocks is, a monster. It's insane. So is Alti though. So, what I was going to say about the fund of the moment, another fund of the moment, and it's a good fund. I'm not saying anything bad about this fund, but it's another fund of the moment, and it's T-SPY. It's the one that this year, you got to get T-SPY. It doesn't have erosion. It does, T-SPY is a great fund, but there's no such thing as no erosion. The erosion is just the dividend. I've explained this a million times. And it even shows you how much erosion it has right here. There it is, $1.44. The erosion is just the dividend coming out of the NAV. So T-SPY does have erosion. But what people are really referring to is it doesn't have excessive erosion. It does a good job protecting capital. I would agree with that totally, right? Well, then why is YSPI beating it? And T-SPY is the one that's so good and everything. Not only that, in the pullback, look at YSPI was down more also. That's a short sample size, but I'm saying, don't sleep on YSPI. Don't sleep on YSPI for sure. And don't sleep on T-SPY. T-SPY is a good one. But if YSPI can beat it since inception, and that's the one that everyone else thinks is good. I'm telling you, the one that may really be good is YSPI. I really can't find one that's beating. That YSPI is not beating. Look what YSPI is doing to JEPI. YSPI is embarrassing JEPI. Just throttling JEPI. That's just curb stomping JEPI. Look at YSPI to just pick one. It doesn't even matter. SPY-I. SPY-I is the other one like T-SPY. SPY-I. SPY-I is the one you got to get. There's no erosion on SPY-I. Okay. That's the other one that's, super safe. I realize that people, they just say no erosion and they don't really mean it. They just mean it's a good fund. I get that, but you hear that about SPY all the time. Well, how good does it look now? You know, I don't have any SPY. I have YSPY, and I think I made the right decision. And I think QLDY is going to be the next YSPY, just because of the way that it's going to. I think QLDY will beat YSPY, but of course it's based on the Q, so it ought to. But anyway, but I think it's going to be like similar to YSPY. But yeah, YSPY is a good one. I can't find a SPY based one that's beating it. I mean, heck, YSPY was beating the SPY, for God's sake, until just recently. So I mean, you got blocks near the launch, Froggy. Well, great job. Great job. Did I ever hear anything about Biggie and Eggy? No, but I'll say this. Eggy and Eggs are also kind of becoming the fund of the moment or whatever. And that's great. They're great funds. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about them lately. But other than meeting the owner, last year in New York and talking to him, he's a great guy. And I've done a show or two on him. I really haven't followed up. Now, Biggie, I just kind of discovered in the Max Factor, it was doing really well, so I made some content on it. Well, let's look at Biggie. I wonder if YSPY can beat Biggie. Biggie's SPY based. We can call Biggie SPY based. Let's see how good YSPY is. Biggie's really good. Biggie is really good. We'll see. But so is YSPY, but not as good as Biggie. Look at Biggie. Biggie's a monster. I mean, and think about that. And YSPY was throttling everything else I compared it to. And now Biggie's beating YSPY that bad. So just think what Biggie's doing to T-SPY and SPY-I that everyone thinks can do no wrong. My point is there's no such thing as a fund that can do no wrong. Funds just get popular. What will happen is the underlying gets hot. People will mistake the underlying being hot for the fund not having any erosion. Because it doesn't have any erosion. Well, look, it's not eroding. Well, yeah, but your underline's up 670% or something. So yeah. All right. But yeah, I'm happy that you guys got it too. Okay, Marcus, let's look at this. But yeah, heck yes, on October. Surf and Wine, I'll let you know whenever their real fund of funds comes out, the one that's more like Alti. But for right now, I think that KQQQ makes a good substitute. Let's see. Have you guys heard about this VistaShares one? DRKY, Dorky. No, it's Drucky. It's copy trading. VistaShares is doing copy trading fund managers. They copy trade Ackman. It's called Acky, ACKY. He did do a good job in 2020 getting VIX. That was a great trade. He's made some decent trades. He's also made some bad ones too. And didn't he lose half his book on something? Anyway, whatever. But they have one for Bill Ackman. They have one for Druckenmiller, and there's another one. What's the other one's name? There's another guy. Is it Ray Dalio? Yeah, it's Ray Dalio, I think. Anyway, I just don't know that much about those. And I'm not that interested in Druckenmiller. I mean, if they did one of those based on, I'm trying to think if there's somebody, a money manager that I would want that I admire, and I don't know. But anyway, those might be interesting. I just don't know that much about them. I think VistaShares, the main contribution they've made to the cover call world is their super steady funds. They did a good job bringing out those buffer 15 funds. So Biggie's badass. It's a buffer 12 fund. Let's see if it can compete with the buffer 15 funds that I was just talking about. So we'll compare. What's the ticker on that, on their buffer? Oh, it's QUSA, right? On one of their super steady buffer 15 funds, something like that. Well, that's not a good look for QUSA, is it? That's not a good look at all for QUSA. Biggie's something special. I'm telling you, Biggie and YSPY. If you guys remember nothing else from this show tonight, remember these three things: Big E and Y SPY are badass, and in lightning spreads, the greatest thing ever, but just be cautious in a downturn. Those are my 3 points of the evening. And you like that Vista Shares maintains their 15%. Yeah, no, they do a good job. They do a good job. So, and we've talked about this a bunch, and I really think that lots of time, like I say, the dividend is the erosion. So the fact that they pay 15 when other people pay 100, once you understand the dividends, what causes the erosion to happen, they have less of it just by virtue of that. So yeah, that's why, like I say, I'm not talking about T-SPY. T-SPY is a great fund, but is it what T-SPY is doing, or is it the amount they pay? Is maybe 14 or 15%, 13 to 15? Is that maybe not the upper bounds of what is reasonable to pay out or something? I think so. It may be that's I'm always looking for the reason behind the reason, but I think it has something to do. If you like a lot of NAV upside, just pay a low yield, and you get it. The thing is that you don't want to pay too low of a yield, and the example of that would be SCHD. They pay super low yield, but it's super safe, right? Well, it's so safe you could just go broke being so safe. Now, it's outperforming QUSA though, but you guys know what I mean. You can be too conservative also. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate y'all for being here. There's 15 of you here, which is pretty good for 10:19 at night. But I'm gonna get out of here, get some rest, and I'll be back in the morning. All right, guys. Anything we forgot to talk about, hit me up in Discord or hit me up on text. All right. I will. Let's see what Marcus is saying. Yeah, I'll see you, Froggy. Good show. Thanks for being here. By current standards, I feel like 15 is the new 8. Yes, I agree. That's why T-SPY was a year ago, because it paid like 15%, and it appeared to have no erosion or whatever. People, it got a reputation for being, the miracle fund or whatever. But back then, that's when like 14 and 13, 14, 15% was a lot of money. Nowadays, everything pays that much. But you can still make a point. But they still do. The 15 is still I'm not talking bad. They still do a really nice job. But yeah, we've had inflation. We've had inflation because in the old days, 12 was kind of the upper bounds. Or, in the old days, the upper bound was like 5 or 6. You got any more than that, it was a Ponzi scheme, or that included dividends from stocks, any type of income. You got that much, or something funny business going on. But not the case anymore. Not the case at all. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. I will talk to you later.